Welcome back to the next episode of Len's Willys 48 pickup. We're still working on the cab. Last time I wrapped up by putting this patch in, and that's where we're going to pick up right now. I need to put a hole in here for the heater core, and it's got to be in exactly the right spot. So let me show you how I did that. Before I cut this out and replaced it, I took a piece of cardboard. I used these two holes as locating holes. I put it in there and I marked where the hole is supposed to be here. I just shot it with some spray paint so I could put it back in and relocate it in the exact same spot. So all we need to do right now is get this back in place. I've already poked a small hole in the middle, and that's all I need is just a pilot for this thing to get the location right. So let's get going on this one. Okay, that's the spot. Now we're going to drill a pilot. All right, now I just need a 1-inch hole around this. Okay, so this big corded drill sure looks like overkill for what I'm trying to do, but my cordless DeWalt died, and I don't think that El Cheapo Black & Decker is really up to the job, so this is what I got to work with. All right, my pilot bit is dull. I'll be right back. All right, let's try it again. All right, I'll just clean up the edges on that and we're done. Next thing on our list here for this firewall is this little section right in the middle. We're missing not only, we got a crack up here, we got a big jagged hole and another crack here and a hole here, and then we're also missing a good chunk of this flange. Now, before I go and do any real work on this firewall, what I've been doing is going over and looking at my 49 for reference to make sure that I'm not missing a factory hole in here. I just want to find out what it's supposed to look like. All right, let's take a peek. It's kind of down in the back here. It's a little bit hard to see. Let's get some light on it. There we go. You can see where I've got my wire loom running through is about where we're going to be working, and I don't see any factory holes there. It took a minute and I marked out where I want to cut. So we'll get this piece out of here and we'll trim this square and go from there. This is a really tight spot to get a grinder in, so I ground out just to at least get everything started, and I'm going to finish it up with an air hacksaw. I'm going to start with this bottom flange. I'm making this in 2 pieces. Let's see here. Okay, so I just got a piece of cardboard. I'm going to go on the inside and trace the underside of this and cut it to follow. Then I can do the outside. I'm going to do what I did with these other patches. I'm going to get it close. I'm going to cut it large. This piece I'm going to leave real long because I've got to have enough meat to try to bend this over, and then I can trim it. This stuff just takes a little time. I got my patch, my bottom patch trimmed down to where I want it. Now what I want to do, get it in here, is kind of mark out these edges. It needs to come out to about there and to about there. So I need to bend this over. Here, I'll show you. There we go. So I'm trying to recreate just this little lip on it right here. We're chucked up in the vise. I left this a tad bit long. I'm going to try to bend it over here and hopefully work my way around that corner. I'm not sure exactly how to do this, but let's just give it a shot. To start. Now I just got to deal with the center here. Let's see if this will work. This now. Now if I clean this up, that might work. All right, let's check the fit up. Yeah, I think that's going to work. I need to, I think I need to shave this down still. It's a little tight right up in here, I guess. But otherwise, I think it's okay. And once I get this to a nice consistent depth here, I think it's going to fit in there. I think we've got it now. I can weld that in and start working on the next patch. All right, we got that bottom piece welded in. So I think that'll work. Okay, we move on to our back patch. I put my little pattern back in here because I'd like to mark where this bend is going to be and put a little pre-bend on that panel. So it's going to start here and right here. This is the middle of those bends. I transferred my marks onto the back side of this since it's got a bend inward. It's easier to do it this way. So all I'm going to do is just center this now right about here and just start putting a gentle bend in this. Let's see how that fits. We got a pretty good fit on the first try. So let me show you what I did now to get this thing trimmed down to the right size. I've put magnets on here to hold it against the firewall. And since I have access to both sides, I came into the inside here. Get some light on this for you. And I just traced around the inside. Now I can get basically a flap disc, and I can run just up to touching that black line, and I should have a fairly good fit. All right, I think we're fit in there pretty well. I can start tacking it and tweaking it to get it right where I want it. All right, we're all ground off. For the most part, I'm happy with this. I'm not thrilled about this down here, and I just couldn't get a grinder. I don't have anything that can get me in there and kind of smooth this out. So either I leave it or I get some body filler on a finger and smear it in there and call it good. I changed my mind. I just can't let it go. I mean, this over here, it's not perfect, but at least I got something a little bit smoothed out. This is just so cruddy looking. I went back into my cabinet and I found a grinding disc that's got a nice square edge. I'm going to try to come in and maybe just catch it at this angle and see if I can take a little bit of this off. Okay, that's a lot better. I think I can live with that now. Let's take one more quick before and after picture. I did a little more looking at the firewall on my truck and compared it here. And we've got a number of these close to 1 inch or just around 1 inch holes in here. Some of these look like they're absolutely factory. Some of them are a little questionable, but rather than welding these up and then having to drill them back out, I decided to just put in some plastic or rubber plugs here. And once we put things back together, we may have to punch these out. But I'm doing it this way just so that I've got my options open here. So I've got those. So what's really left as far as these larger holes is this one right here. Now this is for the upper heater core pipe that comes through, and it looks like they had kind of wallowed this out. So I think what I'll do on this one is get a patch in here and then just try to get a die grinder in here and make this as round as I can. And then that'll be done. Neither this hole nor this hole are factory. So I'm going to patch those up. And then I'll go through and look for any other little things out there that might need touch up. But I think we're in pretty good shape here. Made a little plug right here. I'm going to weld this in, grind it off, and then I'll get a die grinder and round out that hole. All right, I got this marked out. I need to take out all of that black line. We're going to finish up rounding out this hole using a step bit. This one goes to exactly 1 inch, so if I just drive it all the way through, that should do the job. Foiled by my crappy drill again. There we go. Perfect. Okay, get this next one cut out and fit up. I'm going to tack that in and then I'll make sure it's nice and flush and then weld it in. I think we're done with the upper firewall here. I welded up here, here. Those are some 1 inch holes. And I don't see anything else that's not a factory hole. And I started on the lower firewall now. We had a 1 inch here, we had another hole there, another 1 inch hole here. These are all factory holes. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Now I'm kind of going to roll under and start working down here. This is where we're up at the tunnel, and we had some cracking in here and some other stuff going on, more cracking there. So I'll move on to that next. We move on to the lower firewall. So we'll kind of take a look at everything from here down and then kind of tucked up underneath that tunnel because there were a lot of cracks. Come in and show you all around here. We've got some cracks to fix. We're going to start with this one. I need to tack it in and then try to pound it into place. We'll get the bottom tacked. That'll hold real nice. Now we've got this top part that's kind of sticking out. I think I might actually put one tack right now. I don't know. Let's hold off and just try to tap this guy in. Okay, I'm going to tack it right there now. Okay, we're held in there. I'm going to try to concentrate a little force and see if I can just bring this guy flush. There we go. I think we got all of our items welded up here now. I just need to do a little grinding. It's no need to be too fussy here, but got all these cracks welded up. There was a one up there I'd missed, so I had to hit that. Just a lot of little things in here, but we got it all done. This right here is the factory hole for the gas pedal. And this truck had a non-factory pedal, so they had actually opened it up a little bit to make room for that. Since we're going back to factory, I need to patch this. So we'll get a piece of metal in here. Get a rough tracing of where we want it to go. That one does not want to lay flat, so I'm going to tack one corner that's flush, then I'll bring it around. Wow, that's thin. Now we just have to make this round again. Now we use a step bit to finish making that perfectly round. Next thing I want to tackle is this hole in the tunnel. I'm going to guess somebody punched that hole through so they could get access to the pin that holds the transfer case shifters in. So what I'm going to do is just cut a section of this out and make a patch to fit. Okay, we're welded up. Quick grind and this one will be done. All right, that patch is done and ground off. I took a little more time, did a little more grinding on this since I don't know how visible it is, but I wanted it at least smooth out on the floor here. Done. Next, we move on to the underside of the cab. I want to start with these cross braces. There's one on each side here running from the outer rocker and then wrapping up underneath the tunnel just a little bit. There's one on each side. Now, when we pulled the cab off of the truck, one of the first things we noticed is this right here. And this is like it is because it was resting on the frame. The cab had kind of sunk down and it had been sitting there for quite a long time. So This is all cracked out in a lot of different places. Now, the easy repair would be to pound it flat, just weld it up. But the closer I look at this, if you look at this piece right here, you can see how thick it's supposed to be. But this piece right here that's been rubbing on the frame, that metal is, I'd say it's just paper thin. So I think what I'll do, this isn't that much tougher. I think I'm going to cut it, just cut a whole section out and then make a new piece. It's not that hard to bend it around to fit that and just weld that up. The other thing I can do, which is kind of nice, is when I get this opened up, I can get underneath here and kind of clean that out as best I can and get some rust treatment and a little bit of paint or primer up inside there. It wouldn't hurt. We got both of these cut out, and I took a spray bottle with some rust, let's see, it's called Crud Cutter, but it's just a rust converter, and I shot it up inside there as best I could reach. I first blew it out with an air hose. There really wasn't anything stuck in there, which was good. That's probably why it's not all rusted out. But shot some Crud Cutter. We're going to let that stuff just sit now. And while that's doing its job, I'll make some patches. I'll just use a thin piece of cardboard to make up this patch. It's pretty simple. There's not much I have to do on this. So I'm just going to mark roughly where I need to cut. I'll cut this out, wrap it around, and then I'll use this to make my metal patch. These are my paper templates. I've marked them as driver and passenger, which end is up so I can get that metal back in. I made them just a little bit large, and what I'll do now is cut these out of metal and bend them up and then grind them to fit. I'm going to start by transferring the bend points here to each side. That one's there. All right, we'll just take our first check. Okay, this is too long on this side, so I'm going to have to rebend it. Yeah, both of those. This whole thing has to be moved down just a little bit. Took a couple tries, but we're looking like we got a fit here. Now I need to start trimming these ends and maybe these to fit in there. So I will use a grinding wheel and just start working my way through this. All right, I've cleaned up the inside of these. I shot paint in there as far as I could reach. Done it on both sides. I've got my patches ready to go. Painted the back of those. So let's get these welded in. After much welding and grinding, we're done with these patches. I should do the job. Both sides done. And we move on. Okay, I think the last thing I want to do on this video is take care of this front passenger side cowl. So I've kind of marked off where I want to start. I'll cut that one out. And then I took a look at this piece and I've been poking at it with a screwdriver to see where it's soft. And it comes really close to these fender mounts. I'm going to try to keep these, but once I cut a little bit of this away, I'm going to see what the rest of this looks like. And I think getting this out will give me a better view as well of what's going on in there. But that's where I want to get things started. Okay, we got this cut out. Get some light on that. I mean, there's some pitting, but I think we're okay. I want to do a little more cutting now. I'm trying to preserve these two fender mounts. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to cut around this stuff and then we'll see what's behind there. All right, we got this piece out. And at first I was encouraged. These edges feel pretty strong. But then I saw a little pinhole and I started poking it with a screwdriver. And this is paper thin here. There's another spot down here. I was really trying to avoid having to recreate the location on both of these mounting points. But I think it would be wise to zip this all the way down. This corner, this edge looks really good both on the inside and the outside. So at least I don't have to recreate that. But I think I'm going to bite the bullet and take care of these. Okay, before I cut these out, I wanted to get a locating template. So I just took a piece of cardboard here. And this top one is not going away. So I will have this as my locator. Let's get this started. There we go. So I've got my locator. I know this edge is going to follow along here. And I went ahead and just punched a couple holes here and here. So when I weld in this new piece or get ready to weld it in, I can locate it, drill these out, weld nuts to the back. Then I can take this away and weld it in. Okay, we got it cleaned up. I think this is the easiest way to do this. And I did discover the bottom of this little support pillar here has got a rust hole. I may cut that out and do a little patch. And then the other thing I want to do is clean this up while I got full access and get some rust treatment and a little bit of paint up inside there before I move on. Okay, we're moving forward. I've got this rust treated and I painted the inside here. Don't worry about those holes. We'll get to that outside repair on another day. But I want to focus on getting this done, this little patch on the inside, and then this front piece done right here. Or I guess I would call that the bottom piece. So I made a pattern for this, and I've already welded up my patch. I made it in 2 pieces. So I made this flat piece, and then I just welded this in. I've got the back painted now. So this one is ready to weld in. It's going to go in right there. So we'll get that welded in. Then I'll make this piece that runs over the front. Got the patch fitted where it needs to be, and I've got it stuck in pretty good with magnets. So let's get it welded in. All right, inner panel's in, all welded up. So next I'm going to make a template for this panel and get that fit. All right, this is a multi-step process getting this bottom plate in. I cut a new piece of metal for this. I left it a little bit long and I've clamped it into place where it needs to be. The reason I'm doing the first step here is I need to locate the holes that I have to reestablish for those fender mounts. So with this clamped into place, my most important edges are this side and here, because these have to go right back where they are. And now I've got my template that I made with these locations, and I wrote on here a measurement for the distance from this outside wall. And I think if I even just get this bottom one right, then I can go ahead and mark these. Okay, that's it right there. There's our first one. Our second one. Now I can drill these out. Okay, we're all welded in and ground off. So basically what we knocked out on this round was that inner cab front and this underside. Now I haven't touched the outside here, but this is going to come off too and get replaced. So I think we're kind of getting there. Take a quick spot check. This is a punch list we put together when we first brought the cab in here, and you can see there's a lot of check marks on these things. We had a few things left to do, and I haven't really added any of the exterior work, even like this, or like taking care of some dents. You can see that dent along the side there. All of that stuff's going to need attention too, but I think we're making really good progress. All right, we got a special guest in the garage today. Len came out and brought a tool here. We're going to use this to try to take some of the little creases out of the back of the cab. But this is a monster, so let's give it a shot, Len, see if we can make it work. Okay, we've got this crease. Actually, it looks like almost looks factory. It looks like somebody took a bead roller to it, but that is not. It's supposed to be nice and flat like that. So we want to use this clamp here, and Len got one with a nice deep throat on it so we can reach that whole thing. And what we're going to do is use a couple of steel plates to kind of spread that force out a little bit and see if we can get this thing flattened out. All right, you can hold that up there. I'll try to get these plates where we want them. If we can get it all like that, then I've got it. This is going to come in and this is going to come out here. Wondering. Use this almost as a ride. It's so much better than when we started. It was great to have Len stop in today and just do a little bit of work with me. We are still working on this cab, and we're going to be working on it for a little while yet, but we're making great progress. Now, I want to thank you for sticking around and following along on this project, and there's a lot more to do, and I'll keep posting videos so you can keep track of our progress. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.